spring anime season has come to an end. And now we have a lot of summer anime out there, a lot of which I don't really know what to watch. Actually, there are very few, but there are some ones that has a lot of people following and not sure if they're thinking smart. Okay, maybe that's rude. That's actually rude. But there's a lot of different anime that I don't understand. For example, My First Girlfriend is a gal. Like, okay. But looking at the picture, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, now I can see why. But to each of their own. There's a limit to that. But there's another anime that I'm actually trying to watch. Is Welcome to the Ballroom. And that seems like it's not that popular, which is a shame. But I am used to the underrated series to be the better one. But to each of their own. Now, we're in the summer season and the spring anime, most of them, like the big ones such as Attack on Titan, has come to an end. But there are some that's actually continuing on. And you know what that means. Of course, it's the one and only Boku no Hero Academia. Yeah, that anime is so fantastic. Oh, wait, actually, there's another one. It's Boruto. There's that too. Yeah, we should talk about Boruto, not Boku no Hero Academia. You know, the one that can be argued that stole every thunder that one should have. But yeah, let's talk about Boruto. But first, I would like to introduce a guest of mine. Please introduce yourself.
Boruto! Could you please forgive me? I did not mean for any of this to happen. I know what I did was wrong, but I have my reasons. It's okay, class rep. You're fine. Oh, wait. Are we here? Shit. Hey, guys. What's up? Luckychi7 is here today on Sparda's podcast. It has been a long time since I've been here. I mean, it's great to be here again, I'll be honest.
Well, it's been a long time since I have done a podcast recording, probably because of a lack of topic on my end and the fact that, you know, there's a lot of real life things to go through. So a little less time and so many reviews, so many series that just keep on popping up. So I managed to find the time, and it's actually kind of pretty damn good to go back and do the podcast. And you know, I have been doing the podcast with Luckychi as him being the host for the Tokyo Ghoul Re, and it's been a ton of blast. And so, you know, I kind of wanted to revive that. And I guess the topic with Boruto sounds like a fitting choice.
I can understand that, yeah. That's one makes sense.
Yeah. So now we're in summer and Boruto is still going around. At this point, it does seem like, yeah, Boruto is going to be another Naruto, as in it's always going to continue on. It's not going to be 2 core, 3 core, 4 core. It's going to be whatever it feels like it wants to end. And, you know, that's fine in some form of way. Depends how they're going to do it. Well, people has been asking so many times, are they going to do a Dragon Ball Super route, or are they going to do pretty much what they've been doing since Naruto, the first version, the first series, the first part, whatever you want to call it? Meaning that they will put fillers after fillers after fillers until the manga, until the original source, so to say, the manga actually goes so far ahead to have a lot of materials for the anime to animate. But we don't know that yet because we just started off. We're getting to something that's actually from the original source, the manga, which is the Gaiden, but we're going to talk about that a little later. So right now, I want to talk about the series itself. Now, Boruto has started from spring, around April 4 or 5. I forgot what exactly. Around that time on Wednesday. And now it has been 15 episodes so far. We already cover an arc. And supposedly it's the original anime made, which people still wanted to know if it's really an anime original, as in like a filler, or is it really an exclusive that you probably still have to check it out because they will actually have some special development that you only could get from anime. Kind of like Boruto the movie. Like you wanted to see, or the last even, you wanted to see whatever missing piece to be explained, and you got to see it from a different form, not from the original source. So that seems to be the case. Maybe. Now, after 15 episode, we both saw 15 episode. Um, like now we got, I guess we could say we have to give us our opinions on what do we think so far. So I'm gonna let Luckychi to go with his answer. Like, this is not going to be something that's going to be like, oh, you guys have made this video to hate on the series so much, or oh, you guys made this video to love the series so much. We, honestly speaking, I don't know what he really thinks about the series. I know what I think about my own opinion. I know what's my opinion of the series, and if it happens to be all bashing, it happens to be all lovey-dovey, then that's just how it is. So this is all raw. So now, for the first 15 episode, I would like to ask Luckychi, what do you think of the series so far? And do you think this is like going to be a series that should be going as long as how Naruto does without any stoppage? Like, keep on going and going. And I know a lot of people say, like, well, of course, it makes money. But we got to give our own opinion, maybe. Be like, I think it's a good idea. I think it's just okay, so long they can keep it material. So the question is now, again, what do you think the series so far?
Okay, so regarding my thoughts on the Boruto series, it's actually kind of funny because after the extremely underwhelming finale of the anime for Naruto, I kind of went into the Boruto anime just feeling very indifferent about it. Just going in with blank slate and just saying, okay, that was Naruto, this is Boruto, let's just go in and see what the series is about. And look, I understand, it's not going to be the same thing. I already knew about that, while I was going in. And I mean, the biggest indication I kind of got was the fact that they had, a time slot change, because Naruto episodes, if I remember correctly, used to come out on Thursdays. And Boruto got moved, well, not got moved, but it was scheduled for Wednesday. So I knew there was something kind of going on there. And then we had the first episode. Now, first episode was kind of like opening up the same way the manga did, which initially had me somewhat worried because I was thinking oh god, I was like, oh no, are we getting movie recap again? Like the third time in a row? Like the tuning exams, it's like you have Momoshiki, Kenshiki, and all that other stuff, the tuning exams. I would have just been like, no. Sorry, bye. I would have been like, no. I had to deal with, dealing with them for Boruto the movie, fine, made sense. That was the plot of the film. I totally understand that. The manga, though, the manga was painful. You guys have no idea how I felt. Especially when it came to just keeping it up. I was like, okay, you know what, I'll keep it up, and just how long it took to get done with that stuff, because it was stuff we already knew. It's like, okay, it's like you have a manga, but why are you recapping stuff? I can understand recapping certain plot points from something that occurred. That's fine. Maybe a couple pages up, but there was no need to recap the entire plot of a movie and have that on manga form. And granted, we already had this discussion in a previous podcast, but I'd rather just reiterate on that, just to bring up my thoughts when it came to the first episode. And thankfully, as soon as that little fight between not Momoshiki, Boruto and Kawaki took place, we cut to the past, like way before in the past, before the movie even take place. We see kind of just how the show is essentially, I forget the word the target audience was for, and it's got a lot more. It's got a more kiddish feel to it. I can definitely say that. I do see elements, and this is now I'm jumping from the first episode, talking about my overall thoughts on the first 15 episodes. I feel like the series has its moments where it wants to be like Naruto, and that's kind of the plus side that I want to give to the anime. There are moments where I feel okay, this is what Naruto was, and I can respect that about it. But then you can take this as a negative or a positive. I'm just very neutral on the stance. It's got a lot of fluff. It's got a lot of fluff that's kind of like mixed in with some of that stuff that you felt connected to when it came to Naruto. And again, some of the stuff that when I'm mentioning when it comes to connecting to Naruto is like some of the characters. Like you got introduced to what was her name again? Was it Hanabi? If I remember correctly.
Wait,
Right?
you talk about the Hina's sister?
Yeah.
Hey, Navi.
Yeah, Hanabi, yeah. Like you have like small little interactions like that, which I thought was good. Stuff like that I felt like stuff like that worked. The issue though, and again, I know it's like you're comparing this to Naruto, and that's the general thing that's gonna get brought up, is they want to do something that's different from Naruto, but they kind of bring it back. And does it kind of rehash some stuff from Naruto? Sure, it does. But needless to say, the overall arc that this Boruto anime was portraying with, because it was a school arc and it was also the ghost investigation arc. And like I said, the concept itself, the moments they have within the arc itself, I think is a highlight for at least this first arc. But it's like I said, there is like a lot of fluff. There is a lot of fluff that's like mixed in with it. And the fluff I'm mentioning is the stuff that's targeted towards like the younger demographic. Like, I don't want to say Doraemon, but definitely younger kids. Like, definitely a lot younger than Naruto. And you can see that. Like, it's there. It's like there in your face, and you're like, okay, I get it. This is targeted less at a lower demographic than Naruto was, and you can take it or leave it as like a negative or positive. It just really depends on the age group that you're in. So again, for me, when I saw that, I was just like, well, I mean, okay, I guess, but personally, I did feel like, yeah, like this, like the extremely kiddie stuff wasn't really there for me, but there were moments, like I said before, where I was like, yeah, I can totally see the anime going in a certain direction. But it really depends on how they handle the fluff in it. And like I said, I do feel like the fluff kind of overshadows some of like the good parts of the Boruto anime. And the first arc, again, good concepts. There was really good concepts, like with the whole purple chakra thing, the whole investigation as to like who's behind it, and when we find out who it is, I actually thought that was kind of neat. Like I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. My issue though is the execution of it, and that's I think one of the negatives that the Boruto anime has is, again, because it's cluttered with fluff, and you have like some of the moments where you want it to shine. Not only does the fluff overshadow it, but it completely not mitigates it, but it kind of lessens the impact of the execution of the moments that it was trying to set up. And I mean, honestly, as far as the characters are concerned, okay, Boruto, we kind of know about him and kind of where his stance is right now, because him and his dad are not on good terms, because again, this is pre-movie. Sparda and him, they know each other. Like, I can say that much. But I mean, to say this, Sumire, she was the character that a lot of people were kind of connecting to when it came to Hinata. And then the whole twist regarding her, I thought was not ballsy, interesting per se, but the execution of how that took place could have been so much better, and it could have been so much more, I don't want to say surreal, but definitely it could have just made you go like, wow, like that was actually good. That was actually a legit moment. And say you're either kind of just going to go like, that was really dumb. That was kind of or it's just okay. That's it. And I'm in the camp where I'm just kind of indifferent about the whole thing. I'm just like, well, I mean, it happened. Like that's the best thing I can say about it. And I guess the other one of the strength I could give the Boruto anime is like it doesn't really utilize on like the previous generation. Like it does feel like it is about the newer generation, at least at certain points. Because I know there are portions within the show, so far anyway, where it does focus on like the older generation, and that does kind of take away the spotlight from some of the newer generation per se. But I mean, I guess at the moment, if I had to wrap up everything when it comes to my thoughts on the anime so far, I mean, I'm kind of neutral on it. I really am. That's just kind of all I have to say about that. What about you, Sparda?
Well, it's pretty damn good to respond actually. To almost to the fact that I probably didn't need to say my part, but I do wanted to elaborate a little further on my end. So I'll say this. Let me just start off saying like this. I don't think the series is awful or bad even. It's just, I guess, slightly above average. The reason I'm saying it's slightly above average because, yeah, it's starting. And I know maybe it might be not too fair to talk about this kind of pros and cons in the early state of the series. But we are talking about how is it so far. And, like a lot of people likes to do the whole first 5 episode. Do you think you should watch this series? Do you think it would be good for you? Whatever. So I'm just doing that kind of direction. That said, what I think about this series is that I think a lot of people that first start off with episode 1, of course, have the idea that they probably think that the series is going to go a little bit different, much different, broader different in a lot of sense. Like maybe the tone would be different, maybe the action would be different, and some parts are true. It's just I think whatever they're trying to go for is not translating perfectly for the audience because or in terms of at least in terms of depth. And I think that's something that's what's missing right now, but I'll get to that later. I'll actually ask that kind of question with you. But let me get to what I think about the series. Like I said, I don't think it's really bad, but I don't think it's something that is really a must watch or something to be watched under your radar. I think you could really hold off for quite a while. And I still don't know if it will actually get that good. It never hit that moment that says you should really start watching the series because it's really damn good. There's some really crazy moments, tidbits, moments that's like, oh, look at that part is amazing. You got to see this anime or you got to at least see this part. It's something that people remembers with Naruto, the original series, where the Naruto, everybody always say about that Rock Lee versus Gaara. Whenever you hear that moment, that's the breaking point. They say yeah, I'm so glad I'm watching this anime. Boruto don't have that yet, and I know it's early to say, but even if we go to our if we foresee where the anime is going with this direction, we probably won't see that such a breaking moment for anybody to start watching the anime right away in a while. Because if it goes the way how I guess Dragon Ball Super, you still could be argued maybe it doesn't have that breaking moment even, but it is meant for the fans. And I guess that's the same case with Boruto, in more or less, but it's a different direction because they're trying to make these new generation character as a standalone characters with the reference of the old days, and that's fine. But I think one of the flaws is that the atmosphere around them, it just doesn't feel that exciting. I don't know. This is gonna sound weird, and trust me, even if I say this, that doesn't really how should I say this? It's not a jab at the older series, especially series that never got a remaster or anything like that. But it's a strange way I'm gonna say this right now. Now the funny thing about this series is that it's gonna have a box set for a home release, but it's actually only going to be on DVD. And it seems weird. That it just never hits the Blu-ray. Yes, the movie hit Blu-ray, but that's the movie quality. We get that. But for like TV series, why is not on the Blu-ray? I know there's some series that's still on Blu-ray. I get it too, but like a lot of modern anime these days, they are on Blu-ray, even if it's like a long-lasting series, or like go more than 3 core series. Like how like Gintama has their own Blu-ray set, and it's like a big box collection that's like only one season. But Naruto doesn't really go to that level, and the reason why I bring that up because it feels like the atmosphere is so I can't say, I wouldn't say dull, but it kind of doesn't have that so much energy that makes you so amped up to see what's going to happen in this universe. It just doesn't have that. Like every time I'm looking at My Hero Academia, and I know I'm comparing to a lot of animes, and it should be not, and it's considered not fair, and I understand that, but you got to understand what I'm trying to get with this whole comparison. My comparison reason is to show you like how one has a lot of energy in there. Like it just has a lot of effort, and either it's because the anime director, or is the animation tone, or is the writing itself. And maybe it's the writing itself, because the anime director for Boruto, he's well known. He's known for Bleach, and he made Bleach really like a highly entertainment series at like certain points. It's just about the writing. And maybe it's the writing that hinders it. Like, we could actually make you we could actually like write something that's so amazing, and then with your anime directing knowledge, we could make this episode so awesome. We could make this fantastic. We could make everybody say, I want to watch that series. That scene alone looks amazing. I want to see it. But maybe because it's the writing, I don't know, because the tone is going after the character introductions. And one thing that's like a little strange is that people would say that, of course, you get a lot of slowdowns, a lot of slow pacing, because they want to introduce the character. And I get that. And then people try and say like, okay, it's like a slice of life. And I get that too. Even though later on, now it seems like they're trying to separate the slice of life universe, unless it decides to stick around just because the manga has not gotten so far enough to animate the original sources, because we don't know if it's going Dragon Ball Super as in, it could pass the manga and have its own original source, or rather to have the background of it, because the manga is going to take a while. So we don't know if it's going that direction, or it's going to the direction of every adaptation usually do, and that is they cannot go further because the manga or the light novel or whatever the original source is has not gone to that moment. So therefore, we got to stall time. If not, stop the show and wait until they got enough materials, and then we release a new season announcement. But in this case, it seems like it's going to be ongoing, from the look of it, at least. So I get the whole slice of life thing, and I understand that there's going to be a slow pace, but it doesn't mean you have to do it so dull, or you have to do it so very slow and doesn't have that much energy to those characters. And that's the downside I have with these series, is that there's not that much energy to them. There's not much atmosphere. The fact that it doesn't have like the fact that, again, the funny reason to talk about the DVD, because it feels like if you have a Blu-ray, you will feel like alive, because it's high definition, the colors vibrate, character, it's like more attention to details to the entire the environment itself. So it feels like it's more alive. It feels like it feels so alive, like you're just in there. But Boruto doesn't have that much of it. And the first episode, it did, because the animation direction was actually on point. And that's why a lot of people were captured by that moment. But then the more the series continue, the more it becomes like your everyday anime, your everyday Naruto in terms of filler quality. It's like, they kind of wanted to make it a really good story, but for some reason they always dull it out. They always make it slow pace. They always kind of make it somewhat down the middle of like so. And that's how a lot of people feel like. That's how I feel like as well. Even if it is trying to introduce the characters, I just never really got so hooked, or just never really get that much of energy out of these characters. It's like they're just introduction. They get somewhat development, and that'll be the end of that. It's like It's like a one and done scenario with these characters. You know, it's early. It's 15 episodes. I thought the first arc, if you include the entire thing, it's just so slowly paced. I thought it's just it's not awful, but it could have been more. It could have been better. It was just slow pace. It was just slightly above average. That's it. It's only because of there's actually like 3 good episodes that actually show gratitude, and it's the one that Luckychi has mentioned about the whole Hinabi part. And it's not because like, oh, I get to see the old characters. It's more like how it conveys with the new generation and the old generation, and it made it into like a sweet moment in more ways than just the Hinabi versus Boruto. It's just the family itself. Even if it's like, oh, it's not my favorite pairing, forget about that pairing. It's not about that. It's just about the way how they express their emotion. That I actually feel more with them. And I actually was enjoying that whole thing. It lasted only 2 episodes, but it was still enjoyable. Then everything else is like the same old, same old. And it becomes the monster of the week scenario. And because of the monster of the week scenario even exists, that does kind of tell you in a funny way that that's the target audience is actually less younger age than the Naruto age audience, in a strange way, because usually you kind of get that scenario, that kind of storyline with the young series like Gotcha-man, Yataman. I think it's that one. I think it's Gotcha.
I think that's what it is.
I think it's Yataman instead. Yeah, it's kind of like those series, or like that new one, Time Bokkun 24, something like that. It's like it has that weekly basis of the monster of the week, or like there's a problem of the week, oh, Team Rocket blasting off again, blah, blah. It's like that. And that tells me maybe the series is really not meant for like the audience, the same age audience that Naruto used to do. And that's fine. However, it's going to be hard for me to try to get into it, because that's like me decided to watch Dora the Explorer, Blue's Clues, meaning that these are kids shows. And I cannot be serious nor try to be entertained for a kids show, because they were meant for kids, toddlers, younger age, much younger age than me. It's like trying to review a Barney movie for theaters. It's like, well, why would you even review? It's like, you should know it might be like, silly and everything, but that's just for kids, for toddlers. It's like, yeah, that's true. I mean, I understand an animated movie, because a lot of animated movies these days are more like, oh, it should be like a family. So therefore, if it sucks, it really sucks. But again, if it's like a kids movie, you could review it, but it's kind of no point, and because those kids are going to end up seeing it. So why bother? That's how I feel with Bard. So it's challenging that way. I mean, you can still see it. And I'm not saying don't see it because it's for toddlers, but the target audience is definitely different, to the point that maybe that's why I'm not feeling it, because maybe it was meant for that age. And it's not because like, oh, you're not feeling it because you don't like shonen or anything that's like, those Dragon Ball Z style. It's not that. It's really about the environment, the atmosphere, and the tone, and the characters. They're not really that diverse, at least not yet. But at the time right now, it's really hard to try to judge because of the target audience. And I know Kishimoto himself has said his target audience is made for younger than what the original version did. And I can see that. I could definitely see that. But if that's the case, it's going to be hard for me to be entertained, because maybe I'm definitely in the wrong area. And that's
I can definitely agree with that too, because I mean, and I forgot to mention like the stuff you had brought up, like the fact that they had brought in I forget his actual name, but the guy who did the Bleach anime, and he's also the same guy that did the Yu Yu Hakusho anime. So the fact that they brought him on board, I was kind of, because at first I was like, it wasn't really on my list on like it's my most anticipated to watch. But the second they brought him on board, I wasn't like on board like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good. I was curious how it was gonna turn out, and like you said, the first episode, I think, kind of did hook me in a little bit. But then, once that first episode ended, we kind of went back to a formulaic route. And in a way, the monster of the week, I don't want to make a comparison to Bleach here, but it kind of felt like early Bleach to me, where you have like like the hollow of the week where you're fighting off like different halls and stuff. But it's like a very watered down kiddish version of that. And I think that's what also kind of felt kind of odd too. It's like you want Boruto to do something very different from what Naruto does. And I totally get that. I totally get that. But at the same time, you got to look at like what you're working with. And like you mentioned, like the 2 episodes I thought were actually good was the stuff with Hanami. And yeah, it's like, it's like but you're pairing. It's like it has nothing to do with that. Okay, it has nothing to do with that. I was just watching this, and when I saw those particular episodes, I kind of thought to myself, if there were more episodes like that in Boruto, then I think my stance on the series would be a little bit higher than what it was. Because at least then, because stuff like that kind of did make me go like, those are nice. I kind of wish we saw more of that. Because, and I know I'm just reiterating here, but I think that would kind of make the series a little bit higher. It's like, okay, yeah, like you're not. It's not exactly like exciting, but it's kind of like that brings a slice of life element to it, because the slice of life element, like I mentioned earlier, is kind of just like fluff. It's like just there to stall the time, and that itself is, again, just very, very disappointing. It really is. But that's kind of like that's one thing I'll say too. And I mean, throwing moments like that in, I feel like it would still be for little kids, but it would also still be at a point where you're like, okay, it is for little kids, but it does have some wiggle room for older kids to watch too. And I mean, I'm trying to figure out what else I could say here, because it is still starting off. I can say that. It is still starting off. I mean, it's 15 episodes deep. So, could the formula change? It's a possibility. But given the way it's at right now, I mean, I don't know. I really don't.
Wow. It only kind of makes you wish that the animation director would go to the next series that they go into anime, and you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And no, it's not Bleach anime return, though. I would have loved that, to be honest with you.
I think everybody would.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it was really entertaining when it aired, and I know a lot of people probably thinking like, "Are you trying to lie to yourself?" Because I remember recalling saying that you really hate Bleach. Well, I wouldn't say I hate Bleach. I never did hate Bleach. I don't hate it. I just thought, not too fondly. But that's just me. But the anime does make it entertaining, so there's that. And a lot of people like to say the same thing for Naruto when it gets in a good point, of course. So, yeah. But okay, so first 15 episode. After seeing the first 15 episode, it seems like the next episode is going to be like some filler tier thing. And yeah, I guess you want to say like, oh, it's going to develop those 2 anime original characters. Like, I guess, but we'll see how they're going to make it into a fun thing, or just going to be like something that's just like very school learning, or very whatever, like it feels like I guess like a Doraemon, except just Boruto characters. And I haven't seen Doraemon in ages, so I can't really comment on that. But my point is, maybe it would be like exciting for those kids, but not exciting for the either adults or young adults or even teenagers. Depends how you see it. But anyway,
I was gonna say it might be like Nisekoi level filler, but I don't know if I would even go that far.
Well, no, but so no, not that. But so here's the thing: what's missing from the Boruto anime right now? Like, what's exactly missing? And I know we expressed a long detail, but what exactly is missing for you? I mean, I already said my part in a way, and I would just say it in a very short summary version. I just feel like there's not too much energy to it. Maybe just not too much of a heart. Even if the guy does do it at times, mainly on the animation territory, especially like the episode 14, and I give it gratitude for that. But like when it comes to like the tone, the atmosphere, I feel like there's not that much energy. I don't know. I just feel like these characters are kind of bored out of their mind in a funny way. So what about you?
I actually have a very similar opinion to yours. Like, I definitely feel like the energy isn't really there. And something that Naruto had that I really feel like is missing in Boruto is like you don't have that many heartfelt moments. And I know I'm reiterating on that, but like the Hanabi thing was like the closest thing we got to something that happened in Naruto. So when I see it in here, I'm like, okay, that's good. And you kind of wish there was more of that. And I think that's the thing that's lacking the most. It's like it's like okay, you have something you want to do, and it's got that kid flavor to it. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. It really isn't. But you have to balance it out. And I feel like one side just completely supersedes the other. And when you're looking at it from that perspective, you like you understand there's concepts behind what the creators are trying to do, but the way it is executed and the way it's presented as like a final product, especially like when you're showing it on the weekly basis, like I don't want to say I'm surprised that it hasn't lost like viewer interest, but I'm kind of like thinking like there could have been so much more potential with the anime. There really could have. And again, I'm not saying that it's gonna be like this going forward because it could definitely change. It could definitely change. But as it stands right now, with this first arc, that's kind of just me. And that's the one thing I feel like again is like missing is like the energy that Naruto had. I definitely like it's there, but it's very underutilized. And same thing with the moments. So like you have good moments in the show, but it's very downplayed, and that kind of becomes like one of the big that I won't say one of the biggest grabs, but definitely something where you notice and you're just like, if only there was more of that, then I feel like it would have been not fine per se, but it would have been like, all right, like there's something to look forward to, and that's it. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Well, well, that's understandable enough though. Since you brought it up on like Naruto, and I know a lot of there are people that say like, okay, this is not Naruto, and it should not be the exact same as Naruto. Now, here's a question: does it need to replicate Naruto? Not exactly the exact same, but the format and how it goes. And I understand this is the time of peace, so
Yeah,
we say. I understand the premise. I understand the setting, but it can still manage to replicate Naruto. The only question is, does it need to do that?
not necessarily. I don't think it has to. I mean, the I think because it's in the time of peace, you could have kept the whole slice of life aspect to it. That's fine. That's completely fine. But I mean, if you want to go on like your own original route, then go for it. But if you're trying to throw in one with like, hey, wink, wink, like remember this? It's like okay, yeah, like long term fans will think about it. It's like, oh yeah, this is like a Naruto continuation. When really you should look at it as its own thing. And I'm gonna bring this up as a comparison, but for those of you who read the Camp Half-Blood series, the Percy Jackson the Olympian series and the Heroes of Olympus series, technically those two series are kind of like back to one another.
Isn't that
But
technically a sequel though?
yeah, that is technically a sequel.
Okay.
But in a way, you can read the Heroes of Olympus without reading Percy Jackson and the Olympics. Now, granted, I mean, they do allude to stuff that happened beforehand, and it does make the experience a lot stronger. But that series, what the Heroes of Olympus does that I really appreciate about it is the fact that the energy, like it's still like, yeah, it feels different, and it's like the well, not just the stakes too, but just the overall perspective does feel different from the Percy Jackson series, and that's one of the biggest benefits that I really like when it came to that particular series, and that's kind of something I wanted to see with Boruto in a strange way. It's like, okay, yeah, like Naruto had its own little thing, and that's kind of something I wanted Boruto to have, and unfortunately, it doesn't have that. It really doesn't. Instead, you kind of just have a show that's has potential to be something great, for like something for people to go like, oh shit, like okay, that was good. I can't wait to see what happens next. But instead of, you're like, okay, you have a couple good moments, but that's it.
Well, like, yeah, it does have a good moments. It's just I kind of wish the entire episode was like a good moment itself, meaning like, hey, that episode I'm going to watch the entirely instead of like, I'm just going to watch a clip of it.
Right.
But yeah, like, but again, does the episode we mentioned before for the whole family, basically the other family, the Inami, sorry, those are actually good because, again, they utilize the whole premise of the family, the expansion of the family, the grandfather, the aunt, I think, yeah, the aunt, those are neat moment. So that said, does it need to replicate Naruto? Not really. Honestly, when I thought they was going to go with the slice of life, which seems like it might end soon, and that's going to be like, let's see what can you do with a lot of ongoing story thing, with a lot of missions to missions to mission, which could be good. Depends how they do it, because we don't exactly know yet, but we have to wait and see. But to go back with the whole, does it have to replicate Naruto? Not necessarily, because it could do this slice of life if it could do a lot of those kind of level of the same tiers as those episodes we mentioned, then I'll be fine with it. I mean, you could always do more better than that. You could go higher. If you could go higher, that's great. Then that means the show will actually be a lot more entertaining for a lot of fans. So if you could do that, that'd be, great. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like this slice of life thing. There are people that's like, you don't like the anime because it's slice of life. Or they would say like, oh, you don't like the anime because you don't understand how slice of life work, which that falls onto my part, because I do know slice of life. How I seen tons of them is in my anime list profile. You could see like, oh, there's so many of that. I guess the guy does know. But that's the excuse that people has to bring up, and it's kind of bothersome. Even though I do ignore it, but it is bothersome. Like, I'm being placed because I don't know slice of life, even though the truth is I do. And in fact, I tend to like slice of life anime much more than like those battle series, those storylines heavy one. I mean, I like the storyline heavy. I like every anime in equally, but it's just that I when I see slice of life anime, I'll be like, oh, that'd be like my top 5 priority to watch, or even top 3. But Boruto just doesn't have that energy, as I keep bringing it up, because that's what it needs for a slice of life. Like, I seen slice of life that doesn't have to be 100% comedy, or it has to be a good portion of comedy. It could be something that's like very mellow, solid too. You got those like
kind of like has a blend of everything.
Yeah, a blend of everything, or just like even you could have like a very dramatic, or a very like a solitude feeling. Like, again, this is anime that's gonna come out this fall, the Ancient Magus Bar. It's not action heavy. It's actually very solitude, very subtle, very magical. But it's not like a heavy laughing, a heavy action. It's not like that. It's very chill, and it's great. because how the story conveys, how the emotional of these characters shows, how they does everything about it to make the story work, and it makes it entertaining. So I could understand that kind of tone. It's just that Boruto, not sure, really does know how to do that. But if it could figure out how to, have a better writing or fix the tone itself, I think it would be really good. It would be really good. It would just show you it doesn't need to be Naruto. Now, if you want it to be battle, well, I mean, you could do that, but you have to make sure you have a good reason to do it, because again, they live in a world of peace. And yeah, we just have an enemy just recently in this arc itself. Yeah, we have an enemy, but again, you got to find an excuse somehow. And honestly speaking, the way how they make the enemy for this one does come off like a fillery style. It kind of reminds me how like the whole, the second Hokage had a sword and that was missing a long time ago. Oh, look, that guy has that sword. It kind of reminds me of that. And that just seems like one of those writing that almost feels like it's canon, but it's not, because of the way how the story was trying to tell you. Doesn't feel that very compelling, or doesn't tell you, it doesn't feel too much that the earth-shattering moment. It doesn't feel that way. It's like, oh my God, it changed the entire thing forever. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like an easily status quo when everything is settled, which ends up being the case, if anything.
Would you say it kind of feels like a story that's just there?
Yeah, because people need a reason why to follow. And I guess you could say they need a reason for action. And there you go. That's your reason, which is okay, but again, it was the last episode, not the epilogue, which is episode 15. The last episode of the entire arc, the climax. Let's just put it that the climax is just underwhelming, not because of the whole how it feels like the every Naruto usual thing, the talk no jutsu, piece on piece, whatever crap. It's not just that. It's just the way how it was executed. And
right.
That's the thing that Naruto. That's one thing that the Boruto is replicating, and I don't need that to be replicated ever again. Is the execution? Is the poor execution, the poor payoff that needs to be removed? That needs to go away. The payoff, the execution, the poor quality of for both of them needs to go away. That's the only thing they cannot replicate.
Yep, I can totally agree with that.
Yeah, I don't want that, man. I mean, look, Naruto is not always a bad payoff. It's not always a weak execution. It's just the lasting impression did have that weak payoff. Both of them. Even the main one, the main big plot point has that. And that really sucks. I don't want that anymore. So with Boruto doing that, that was just like, okay, maybe it's really, really not for me. And I know the first thing people would say, then just drop the anime. Well, I could press hold and maybe watch like a good 5 a patch. I'm not gonna drop it because I'm not liking it. I mean, for a lot of people, they do that. That's fine. That's their choice. Me, I usually just be like, well, I'm gonna be on this boat, and I'm gonna stay until we reach to the destination. If not, sink with it. That's how I work.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling too. I'm just there, like going, like, all right, let's see how events play out.
Yeah. So,
and that's not saying it in a negative way, guys. That's just me being honest.
Right. I mean, I do that for every anime. I'll be like, why did I start this crap? This anime is so bad. I mean, you guys already, I'm not sure you guys know about my top 5 anime of last year. Like, I did the worst one. I did the really disappointing one. Mainly the worst one is the one you will be like, yeah, I don't know how you end up seeing an anime. Well, it's because I wanted to sink with the boat, That's just my fault. I'm like, why did I start this? I could stop. Nah, I gotta finish this. I was like, oh yeah, I start this because, well, she wanted to watch this. I know this one is really meaningless, but I started, so let me just finish it because I started it. Why not? You see that in my profile. You'd be like, you really saw the anime? Why? I'm like, you know what? Here's my advice. Just stay single. You'll be okay. But Since this anime is clearly, maybe not clearly, but it does seem like it's suggesting to be a lasting anime like Naruto, the original, and Shippuden. If that's the case, what does this anime need to do to keep the charm and the decent quality to last long? You know, let me just get to my part. Again, is what I said about the whole Hinabi thing, the whole Hyuga family thing. Those are nice, but you can't do that forever. You
Right.
gotta, huh?
I said no, you can't.
No, you can't do that forever. You gotta expand it. You gotta develop it. You gotta, yeah, expand it. Expand is the more main thing. It's kind of like it's kind of like how Gintama managed to keep itself fresh and more well, maybe not fresh, but always stay alive, always stick around, and always brings out the laugh because they expand their character, they expand their environment. It's like, it's funny because that character seems like it could have been a one and done scenario, or his character is always going to be staying with this kind of trait. Like, for example, let's say Metal Lee, right? He has this nervous breakdown thing. He's scared to when he gets nervous, he sucks. When he's all confidence, he's amazing. If you don't expand that kind of character, we always going to see that same character trait forever more, because maybe the writer doesn't know what to do with more of that trait, and that's something that's like kind of weak. Now let me again, I'm trying not to compare. I'm trying not to compare so much, because I know a lot of people will say, like, if you compare so much, then you're asking for this anime to be the anime. I'm not. I'm just saying, like, what this one thing does right and the other one should not try to do this path. Meaning, like it's, think it's as an advice, but don't do the exact same thing. You don't need to do the exact same thing. Just watch out what you have to do, especially if you're gonna last this a very long time, more than like a year, without stopping. So let's say Metal Lee, Metal Lee has this nervous breakdown character trait. Now, if you don't expand him anything, we're always going to see that same thing, and that would just get boring, and that would just get annoying at that too. And that's something I'm a little afraid for Boruto. It's like it's going to get so repetitive. It's kind of like how Shippuden suffer with the whole filler thing. That's the reason why you guys keep seeing Sakura always do the tsundere moments to Naruto, because it's just something they always know from her, and they don't really expand much of her. Yeah, it's always like that kind of moment. It's always have that Hinata being shy. It's always have Shino being neglected. It's always having Naruto doing Naruto thing, which is kind of fine actually, because he's a protagonist. He has a lot of traits, even though some of the traits, they go back to the part one filler days, which is very cartooning and very immature, that he's not even like that. And that's another thing. They got to watch out with their character. They cannot break character. So it's challenging if they're going to last long. All I'm asking is, don't let these characters remain the way they are. They got to expand them, because like going back with a small comparison, like with Gintama, you got this character who's supposed to be like obsessed with this one guy. And you would think you will always see that kind of character trait. Now you do see that character trait. However, they expand that character to show different traits of that one person. Like it's not about the obsession. It's not it would be something about that glasses. It would be something about the skill she has, but then it'll be this blindness. It'll be a lot of things differently that you don't need to repeat the same joke over and over again. Or it'd be like that other guy. The other guy, he was like a reference to. He's like a meme guy. Then he becomes a guy who's like, I think it was Appa. Like he just loved that food all of a sudden. And then he becomes the other guy. He becomes like it just keep on expanding. They don't keep the same joke because it won't work. It won't work anymore because it would get boring for these people. So what I'm saying is Boruto should expand these characters, and don't feel like you're being held back because the whole manga is not ahead, so we cannot do any expansion to these characters. I hope that's not the case, and that's the worst thing that could happen, because that's the reason why filler for a lot of series tends to suck, because they're so limited to whatever environment they're in. It's like, oh yeah, Naruto hasn't learned that. We can't do that. Oh yeah, Naruto is gonna develop that, but we can't do that. Oh yeah, we can't develop him because that would make him too smart that the manga has not reached yet. Oh yeah, this and that. So that's the downside of filler. But if they can find a way to manage to keep it without having to destroy character nor change too much to the manga be questioning, then you'd be fine.
Yeah, like especially like in fillers, like just subtly hint at things that are like to come in the events. Because if you do stuff like that, then it's like okay, because then will it necessarily make the moment better? It really depends on how it's handled. Like that's the one thing I can say. But if you're doing it in a subtle way and it works, then definitely a thing that would make it better. And that's my advice when it comes to the fillers. And I do wish the Naruto fillers actually did that, where it wasn't just like, oh, okay, like here's a random filler. It's clearly used as a device. In this case, now, like when you're really looking back at it, as a device to stretch out the episode until we get to the canon material. That's what it became after a while. At the very least, I can't remember if it was like the 3 Tales or the 4 or 6 Tales arc, but I do remember, like after a certain point, that's what it really became. And it was more prominent during the war arc than anything. But and I mean, there have been filler arcs in Naruto where the storylines were actually good. I mean, again, the 2 I can name off at the top of my head, Chikara. Personally, I can argue one of the best fillers in Naruto. I guess I could say the Kakashi Hanbu filler arc. That was genuinely good. And see that I think the Kakashi filler arc is a great example of expanding a character you've known and just finally going into the backstory and seeing what happened. Stuff like that. And again, I know it's like, oh, but it's like, yeah, you're comparing Naruto again. But again, the thing is, if you want to like these characters, like these newer characters, you're gonna have to explore the territory like that. I mean, that's just common knowledge when it comes to a story. So, if stuff like that occurs, then the series is on the right track. If not, then good game. That's all I can say. Just good game.
Well, let's hope for the best, I guess.
Right.
Like I said, obviously they're gonna go for more than a year. Well, I'll be surprised they actually stop for a Black Clover, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think it's going to happen either.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer they do that, but then there is a cash grab. I'm assuming
take a break and then it's like, all right, take a break, kind of revitalize on your ideas, and then boom, second season. I would honestly prefer if it went that route, but you're not gonna get that route, so you're gonna get hit or miss episodes at best.
I was kind of hoping it would just actually stop for once, but that's just a wishful thinking. I mean, you already experienced Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, and even Bleach if you want to go that route. Yeah, they could go on. But like I said, if they cannot pass the manga source, then this is going to be really challenging. Very, very challenging. Yes, I know Kishimoto is working with the anime as well, but I still don't have that much faith. Not too much. Nope. At least based on this first arc. That's where the first arc. The first impression is not the best impression.
No, it isn't.
No. So, one thing that I noticed about the latest episode is that people seems to think that the episode gets much better, mainly because we got to see Naruto and Sasuke at the end. Now, it does bring my attention to say, okay, you sound like you actually in this series if the old cast were to come back. And if they come back for a cameo for a brief while, you will like this episode much more all of a sudden. That being said, should the series really rely more on the old cast, like more involvement with the old cast, or should they try to continue to push these new generations to be the new generation?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess it really depends on how they're utilizing the story. Like, if they're utilizing the way how they were utilizing the first arc, then honestly, it's like, then why make a series about the newer generation if you're just gonna have the older generation take a spotlight on it? It's like okay, it's like you have the whole thing set up. It's like okay, you have this new series. It's focused on the new generation. That's what it's gonna be about, and that's totally fine. But whenever it's supposed to be a moment, like a limelight spot for the newer generation, that's what it should have been for. It really should be that. Instead, what you're having is the older generation coming in, and then again, you're bringing nostalgia. Like, oh my god, it's those characters. It's Naruto. It's Shino. It's like, dude, they're so amazing, just like they've always been, and that I feel is like a big hindrance. It really is because then you're just sitting here going like, so then it's like, then what was the whole point about the bringing in the new generation if they're not gonna do anything? I mean, again, the only one out of the exception was Boruto, but even then, he's just reiterating what Naruto did, which was the talk no jutsu, and it's like, yeah, like what's so different about it? It's like yeah, like okay, like so what's the point about having the new generation if you're just focused on like if you're just gonna have like the action stuff revolve around the older cast? It's like no. If they assist the older cast, no, like if they assist the newer generation, fine. Like I can get behind that in some sense. I really can. But if they're just gonna be like, oh no, like yeah, like no, well, we know you're the newer characters, but the fans love us more, so we had to take precedent because that's what we'll say on the series. It's like no, you that's I don't know. It's like why?
Well, you know, I think one of the main problem, I mean, one of the main problem that if you care about the old cast that much, you're kind of sort of acknowledging that the new casts aren't as interesting or anything to be caring about, which
Exactly.
is not a good sign because the main idea of the sequel is to start caring about the new characters, and it's not like we're in the same realm of the first series. If it was like a realm of the first series, and then it's like, okay, we get new characters. Well, that sucks that these new characters aren't doing any you favor, but at least you got the old cast still around, and they're still the focus because, well, this is still their series. But this is a sequel. This is a brand new titles in a way, not a new franchise, but a new title within the franchise. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you can have old cast, but you should not heavily rely on them, which is funny because technically the movie kind of did that more favor. But
It
you
did.
know, that's gonna be the. It almost tells me even if they do recap the movie, it might end up being more favored because the old cast is here. It's not like Dragon Ball Super because we always stick with Goku and his friends first and foremost. So there's
Right.
nothing too different. But when this one is actually going to be uh, ironically, a breath of fresh air because we're getting the old cast to be in the spotlight. Even if it was focusing a lot on Boruto in the movie, the action wise, that's where all the Naruto fans gonna come in because of Naruto and Sasuke. But
Exactly.
yeah, but the point is, it should not really rely on the old cast that way. If it's gonna rely on the old cast, do what they just did with the season alone. I mean, they actually did decent job. Certain points, decent job. You know, the only downside I have with the first arc is that the reasons behind of like why this character cannot do this or that is so forced and is so contrived in order to make sure that Boruto get the spotlight, they gotta find a way to make sure that the Naruto has no way to get a spotlight. Like, oh, he just didn't know that probably was happening around his time. But in this one, it was like, he was there, and the excuse they gave him was rather hokey because we already see him done a lot of moments or done a lot of battles against those type of characters that does do the same ability. So why stop now? You got to find a better way to prevent him to get the spotlight, not being so forced and contrived like that kind of way. But again,
and so sorry to interrupt, but
that's all right.
Yeah, the other thing I want to mention is like the second you bring in like the older guys and more specifically Naruto, the sense of danger goes away. Like that's the. I think that should also be taken into consideration, and because actually, at the point where Naruto's at, it's like the minute you bring in a threat, it's like, oh yeah, it's okay, no, Naruto's here. The entire sense of danger is gone. It's like, why?
Actually, that is a huge valid point, and that's and that's my problem with series that gets a sequel that has the world already established to be dealt with. Like, maybe if you end the series like, oh, this world still has many problems, but at least our heroes got their dreams. The end. And then you can make a sequel, fine. You still have all those problems because it's not dealt with. But in Naruto universe, it is really dealt with. You already got rid of the main problem. You got peace, world peace, so to say. You got everything. So what's there to go with the world? I don't know. Let's just make a sequel still because money. I mean, like Dragon Ball, they found a way because it's always expandable. If you really think about it, Dragon Ball is always expandable. Again, you don't need to be a fan of Dragon Ball Super. You don't need to be a fan of Dragon Ball, but you could clearly see that Dragon Ball is always expandable. Naruto World feels like a series that really is finished, much as finished as like a lot of finished series that's not canceled, just a finished series, like definitely like a high school series. Like, oh, the kid finished high school because it just did. Circle of life will be. So you can't really repeat that scenario anymore because that's dealt with. That's done. You got the dream. When you get your dream, you're done. There's no more to expand.
Nope.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, again, if you want to use the old cast, that's fine, but you always have to make them in the background. You can't have them in the foreground. You can't have them to be the most focused. You can't have them to be the one that always take the spotlight, because otherwise the secondary characters are never going to get the secondary characters. Look at that. I'm really calling them secondary. I meant the second generation, these new generation. They need to be in the foreground. They need to be the main appeal. They cannot be something that you could just ignore because they're the main guys now. They're the new main cast. So you have to give them all the focus, the time they need. And right now, I guess I understand that people aren't too connected with these characters yet. And I understand that, but again, let's not try to rely on the old cast to make the episode good. We gotta rely on the new cast. And hopefully it makes the episode good because these new casts are actually worth diving into. So, yeah, I'm hoping for that. It's just an easy bait to get these old casts to do all the work and everybody call it a day. I don't like that. I rather prefer for whatever that's supposed to be new to the series itself and be the one that makes the episode entertaining because of them.
Right.
But that's how I see it. That's how, the way I see it from the latest episode. The way how people react is because of the old cast. Once the old cast hits, it's like a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 episode. And that seems to fanboyish, but I mean, look, if that's what you decided on, fine, whatever. I guess I can't do anything about it, but kind of wish you would be a little bit more thoughtful on that. I'm just saying.
You have the moment between Naruto and Sasuke, and it's like, yeah, but it was just that one moment in the episode. I don't think that's enough to solidify that it's a great episode. Moment, sure. to say that one moment like completely makes the episode a 10 out of 10. No, I don't think so.
Well, it is what it is. But like again, I would prefer them to keep on focusing on the new cast, old cast, be a benefit, be a cameo, be a storyline, but not like the main storyline. Like, hey, look, I'm free and I can kick the guy's ass. The end. Rather than
Right.
none like that. Don't let them take the full course of action. Let them be the reason for that action, if that makes sense.
I mean, in terms of like assistance, sure,
Right.
that's fine.
Right. So we have Gaiden. And technically speaking, that's more of Naruto than Boruto.
It really is.
Yeah. So that's being animated now. And any
That
thoughts on
story
that?
is actually complete. That's the other thing.
You got any thoughts of Gaiden being animated?
Ugh. I mean,
Okay, never mind.
okay, no. That was the wrong way of actually putting it because I actually burped during that point. So. Not my actual thoughts on it, but when it comes to Gaiden, I mean, to say what I said when I was doing the manga reviews, the the way how it was set up was it was supposed to be all Sparda focus, and that's what it was for at least a little bit. But the second, and again, it's kind of like the problem that happened with the first arc. Well, Naruto is gonna get involved somehow, and the second that happens, you ultimately end up having the old characters stealing the spotlight again from the newer characters. And I mean, look, I will say this: the one thing I did like from Gaiden was the Naruto and Sparda, like they're not really student sensei like Boruto and Sasuke are, but you could say it was kind of like one of those stepping stones, if you will, for that. And I like that. I really did like that. The thing is ultimately where that ends up, because we all know, for those of you who read Gaiden, you know how the story ends, and it is one of those things. I'll just leave it at that as far as the story of Gaiden goes. But seeing it in the anime, I guess it'll be interesting to see. I'll say that it'll definitely be interesting to see. I know this isn't really a big deal per se, but I'm kind of curious because the way how they're promoting Gaiden with the key visual and stuff, it looks like Sard has got her original outfit, like from the movie and from like the original promotion that they had for the anime. Before they were like, oh yeah, let's get the manga because reasons. Yeah, we all know what reasons those were. For those of you who are keeping track with the light novel covers and the manga cover pages and stuff. I don't know at this point, but
Oh my god. If you don't know about the manga, I think it's best to keep it that way.
right.
Especially for the front cover and even the inside cover. Some moments are really questionable on the design choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess overall, when it comes to like what my thoughts are on Gaiden getting anime, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I'm just, as far as the story goes, again, it's a story that had a lot of potential, but seeing the anime, seeing the voice act, I'm also kind of just curious about like some of the music choices they're gonna put into like. Will the anime make the Gaiden story a lot better, or will it just make it dull? That's one way you can look at it too.
Well, one thing for sure, the shift storm will exist still.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, for me personally, well, I made a review a while back. So if you really want to know, I would just post a link in the description. I would just let that to give you the better judgment because I'm not gonna go recap or all of it. I do remember Gaiden vividly. The best thing I can say is this: the ending for Boruto, the recent ending for Boruto, sure makes it look so great that it won't be great.
I know, right?
That's the problem. I'll say this: the ending is going to be better, much better than what we're going to actually get in the Gaiden. Like, yeah, maybe it will be animated good in certain areas, if not in an episode. But the overall writing, the overall package, the overall everything that comes within this is going to be really a pain.
It really is.
Yeah, to the point that one user I read that actually is the same thing that I'm feeling too. Is that okay? If they're gonna animate Gaiden, they better retcon and rewrite the hell out of it because that's what I would have done too. Because oh my god, the contrived story, the characters go, I don't know, loop de loop somehow. It goes loop.
The mysterious setup also.
Yeah, like I said, the story is so contrived. Like the setup is so questionable. It's so some of them are so stupid. They could have been dealt with one episode. It could have been like it's like Suicide Squad. When the person just say, "Nope," the story ended right there. You don't need to say any further. You don't need to be like, "How about recruit villains?" Talk to me more about this villains being, heroes. But if the person just say, "Nah," the movie would end right there. It would end right there. That's exactly what Gaiden is. The story, one aspect story, could have ended in chapter 2 with one character that has the opportunity to say something. But nope, we have to have this storyline to go on because reasons. It's ridiculous. If you read the Gaiden, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, it will give the fans more of Sparda screen time because she was definitely lacking in the first arc. That's for sure. But they need to do that because this was a already established character arc that she has under her belt. So fine, I get it. Though that is alarming because it tells me that the anime may not go Dragon Ball Super territory. In other words, do something that the manga has not reached to that point, but you are passing it already. So that is concerning. And, whatever in that character development that she's going to get, especially the goal, if they plan to stretch it out the filler or whatever they're going to do in the anime, we're probably going to hear her constantly say the same thing over and over, and that will get a little dull. Actually, that will get dull quick. But the point is the writing in Gaiden is really something else. It's made for entertainment. Even if it's a bad entertainment, it's made for that. And yeah, you should not try to think too hard on the writing because it will be it will be a headache. It will be a headache. The villain is unnecessary. The most unnecessary thing to have because it doesn't change anything. It only puts the problem, but it never puts anything that makes the life-changing event for the character. Yeah, even if Sparda, because Sparda does develop one thing, but that happened before the action, so there's no need for the action. A lot of things no need for the action. It was only there so it could provide an action. It's kind of like how Boruto the movie did. I was enjoying the father-son dynamic until they had to have a villain, and then they solved it in a very fast manner that it's hard to believe that is actually the resolution that we're building up to. It's like, oh, that's our payoff? That sucked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's funny because it's now that you brought that up, in a way, you can say Gaiden and Boruto the movie kind of fall under the similar aspects where, well, I don't know if you would say Gaiden does too. I guess you could say the first act of Gaiden was interesting as far as setup goes, but then once you get to the middle and the end, it's like, so what happened?
Yeah. What? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it was interesting in the beginning, but I mean, look, the premise I could understand. It's actually not a bad idea. It's just the way how they get to it. It seems so ridiculous.
It
Again,
does.
like okay, I guess I just say one part.
Go on.
The way how the story started is stupid
It did.
because it makes us wonder what is Sakura thinking about this. Like, who in the right mind would have a picture and then forge a picture just because you could not get a picture with Sasuke somehow?
Like, really?
Picture is so stupid. It's like, who does this? Maybe a movie about obsession that's like, not meant to be serious, but meant to be like a thriller movie. Like, oh my god, this obsessed person is gonna kill me. He's killing my family and my friends. Boo hoo. That's what it sounds like. Like, what the hell?
Like, really?
Like that part, like again, the premise sounds not bad. It doesn't sound bad. Like, okay, yeah, she wants to find out the truth. Fine, that's cool. It's just the way how it starts in the gauge and the way how the non-answer until the last moment comes in. It's like it's
what you could have just solved by chapter 2. Like, you
again,
all that unnecessary drama, and it's like, what was the point?
Exactly. It's oh my god.
I mean, honestly, this is just me, but I would have rather. And when I meant setup, I meant by like the first couple pages when it opened up, like with the whole academy stuff.
Yeah.
And talking about the entrance exam, I would have much rather focused on that, to be honest.
That's true. It's true.
I had an opportunity to focus on that, but nope.
Yeah.
Focused on something else.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, let's see. I mean, I doubt they rewrite it. Maybe it will. I think the only thing they could benefit would be the action scene. That's it. Because, the animators. That's it. If they the animate and the director knows when to use the right anime studio, animators and themselves. But like, okay, this is gonna be action heavy, so I'm gonna use the best of the best the Studio Pair can offer me right now. So here we go. Let's do this episode. That's the only upside. Other than that, the story itself, no. The damage is done unless he somehow rewrite the entire thing. Maybe he would save it, which I doubt. But whatever. Damage is done.
I mean, if anything, the anime, like, since they're adapting this stuff, I think it's just gonna refuel the fire even more.
Oh god.
Though I have a question that I actually want to ask.
Go for it.
When it comes, because we know the Gaiden stuff's getting animated.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's a chance they're gonna cover the movie stuff again? It's like, okay, look, we dealt with the movie stuff once for the film. That was fun. The manga was painful, but the Gaiden stuff, again, that's already kind of set in stone. It's like, okay, that's the next thing. After that, do you say fillerize the gap between Gaiden and the film, or just have some filler stuff taking place and then skip over the whole movie stuff because people know it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, they get it. We don't need to show the movie. Or I don't know, like what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's challenging. I mean, like, I do see a filler before the movie recap, but it's challenging because, look, here's the thing about the first arc. The first arc, it was the beginning. It was the introduction. Right. And in a way, it kind of miraged the people. It kind of have an illusion that cast on people to think that it's canon. I'm not saying it's. I can't really yeah, okay, it's the beginning. I know Kishimoto supposedly said he is canon, whatever, but there's not much change that came from that, or there's not that much of a huge lesson. If anything, it's just a starting ground that everybody meets their friends, and that's how they got together. That's it. That's like you got that solution there, but you could do without it. You could survive without it. You don't need to see it. You don't need to know about it. Oh, you need to know about it, but it could be said and can be shown within the present time. That's already been established. You don't need to see the very beginning, like, oh, I don't know about this character, but I think I like this guy. So now I'm going to be a friend of his. And here we are. So because it's the beginning and because it's before the Boruto movie and the Gaiden, it makes it sound like that is truly canon, that you have to see it. But reality is you don't really need to see it. Yeah, maybe for those 3 anime original characters, depends how far they stay around, but you won't miss much. I mean, yeah, you got the eye thing, but the way how it's structured, it feels like a teaser that when it comes back, which is most likely based on the manga, when it gets to that, it will feels like everything is restarted. Maybe you would just say like, "Hey, I remember this eye technique. This is way back when I was 8 years old. It's finally back." Maybe you would just get that reference, but that would be it. Then everything would be normal as the manga has been written on. So it's going to be challenging because when you finish Gaiden and then you try to do something between Gaiden and the movie recap, it's really going to show that, like, yeah, we've been following filler all this time because nothing is really progressing anymore. Now it's just a lot of fillers, mini stories. That's always like a lesson or two that won't stick around because it's just there to kill time.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know, that's challenging, but I could still see they put a filler between it. You?
I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that too. And I mean, even though I wouldn't really want to see anything from the movie again, especially like when it comes to like an anime format, like having the movie as a film was one thing, but the fact that that if the movie stuff does come back, which I think it's going to, and they chop it off into like bits, like okay, like have like 20-minute portions like here, and then maybe see like I don't know, like last 5-6 episodes. Like I think more, maybe some of the hardcore fans will like they'll stick out to you and go like, oh, it's okay, it's still Boruto. Like we'll still watch it, but I do generally think some of the other people that watch it, they're going to be like, do you think it'll cause a decline for the anime? Because I definitely think that's a chance if it goes that approach. Unless, there's only one way to see this. Unless they, I don't want to say stretch it out, but they fillerize bits from the film, and if they, I don't know, like the other 3 new characters, like what, Sumine and what were the other 2? Kawaki and
Denki?
Denki, yeah, him. If they incorporate them somehow and that ends up working in some way, then I guess, but I don't even think the 3 of them will be sufficient enough to say, okay, like that's enough, like that's a legit reason as to why we're readapting the movie. Because like we have like these 3 other characters, assuming they're even like still around by that point, because who knows what they're up to.
That's true. I mean, yeah, like I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the series will go like disappear because all that recap. I mean, look, okay. I know Dragon Ball Super has more followers than Boruto, especially if you go with the TV rating. But I still don't think they probably get canceled because it's hard to say because I don't know what the revenue are. Like, I don't know how much they'd be making with Boruto, the franchise itself. It wasn't listed in the whole, I think it was like, the survey of like top 30 or top 20. I forgot how many franchise was listed, but it wasn't listed there. But I don't know if that's a sign because they don't have the DVD. They just released the soundtrack after the survey. So I don't know how that's doing. I don't know, like, what is the general audience of Boruto? Like, yeah, the manga is much less than the Naruto itself, but it still sells, and we don't know like how much effective it is to say, this series has the name Naruto in there, so therefore that's how it's doing so well because it's carried by the name. It's like maybe it'd be much easier to say like, look, if it's a standalone series, a brand new series, a brand new franchise, yeah, the chance of cancellation is up there, definitely. But it's being saved by the name itself. Because without the Naruto name, I don't think the series would have survived. But with the Naruto name in there, because look at it this way: if Boruto exists as a franchise, a brand new franchise, right?
Right.
You know, we got this Hyuga family, you got the sister, you got, well, maybe not the sister. Okay, the Hyuga family, the old cast, the teachers, the old cast being teachers and all that stuff. They won't know. They'd be like, all right, that's the teacher. All right, that's the family, his grandfather, his aunt. Mm-hmm. And that's it, right? You're not gonna be like, oh, that's Hinabi. Wow, she's so grown up and she's so funny now. I remember her a long time ago. Oh man, she really got old, but he's like a grandfather now. You never thought I would see his characteristic like this, ha ha ha. But yeah, you don't get that because you won't get that if not Boruto is a brand new series, period.
Right.
So you know, I guess the franchise was, I guess the series will still stay on. I'll be surprised if it stops. I'll be damn surprised.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. But speaking of franchise, here's the last thing I want to ask. So before we close this,
Okay.
with people watching this series, when they first start off watching this series, they were impressed with the first episode, mainly because the animation the animation work, they had to put their A game, which they did. They put their A game, it ends up being decent. And then after that, it doesn't really carry that further. And a lot of people start to drop the anime. A lot of people starts to get pissed off. A lot of people who's loyal to Naruto fan, they would stick around, which is understandable because they're the fans. It makes sense. It's made for the fans. Same thing could be said for Dragon Ball Super, even though it got a lot more audience, so a lot of people actually get more entertained. But I digress. My point is, there's a lot of fans that just seems like not too into it, not too engaged, and maybe because it's what we said in terms of flaws and all that stuff. But sometimes I tend to think maybe, just maybe, with Boruto around being a fresh, brand new start for this franchise, and it's still doing a lot of things that Naruto has done before. The talk no Jetsu, the way how they use the characters, their environment. It's still the same thing as Naruto in a way. Not exactly the same thing because we discussed that, no Team 7 going out the mission, no dark story, whatever. It doesn't need dark story. I mean, it could help, but it doesn't need to be that dark. It needs to be, it doesn't have to be that serious. It could just have a right tone, which they kind of trying to find that way right now, and hopefully they will get that way. But with all that said, right now, it doesn't seem as engaging as Naruto the old days because maybe, just maybe, the franchise itself is passe.
Like it's kind of like overstated its welcome.
Right. Like, it's not like Star Wars, like where episode 7 happened. Maybe you most likely hear like, why episode 7? Why would you do this? Braggers or whatever. But the box office says otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many fans that go to see the movie. Whether you like the movie or not, the point is it garnered that much money. It garnered that much fans, meaning that franchise is so incredibly huge. It's pretty much a religion. But my point is, Naruto franchise, I'm asking if it's passe because it seems like a lot of people are already so tired out with this formula, because we've seen this before. And yeah, maybe it's best not to copy Naruto. Even if you change it up, it still has that Naruto feeling in some form of way. And maybe that's just not what they want anymore. And then you have other series that comes around it that pretty much says this one is better. And the one that I'm obviously talking about is My Hero Academia. The reason why a lot of people the reason why a lot of people compare, even though it should not, because they're both different. Of course they're different. Yes, it's shown, it's so what, but it should not be that compared. It should not always say like, oh, it's Naruto with superhero. But the point why I'm bringing out My Hero Academia, and the reason why I think a lot of people bring My Hero Academia without really realizing, it's just because My Hero Academia feels more to the today's standards, to the standards of like, we don't want to hear you guys talking about friendship speech. And it feels like Fairy Tail got the worst victim of them all, because if it was like the way how the status of today's in Japan, because I'm hearing they still really like that, hence why Black Clover is sticking around for longer than it maybe it should be. Even though I'm not saying like, oh, it should have got canceled. I'm just saying like that is the winning formula. But my point is, for the people in the Western, at the very least, it seems like they're so burnt out from that. So my question again, is Naruto franchise passe at this point?
I honestly think it is. Because, I mean, because, and I know we discussed it, but after everything that's happened in the Naruto verse, it's like, what more could you do? Because when the Naruto series ended, like, you tackled everything. You tackled Kage, you tackled Madara, you tackled, like, the Otsutskis themselves. It's like, what more could you do? And it's like, because it would be like, okay, like, you're raising stakes, but, and sure, you have, like, the Otsutskis, but there's only so far that can actually go. And I think the other thing is because the ending of Naruto, like, the bar was set so high. Anything that came after that would just feel so underwhelming, because I think people realize that, like, whatever comes afterwards, it can't be tough. It's like taking, like, again, going back to Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus series. It's like taking the Percy Jackson series and you had Chronos. And in Heroes of Olympus, the only reason why you have a follow-up is because the threat is higher than that. You're dealing with the Earth itself. That changes the game completely. And you're like, okay, what's going to happen with that? With Naruto, it's like, well, what do you do? And I think the fact that people have kind of like looked at what's happened, and it's like, really, like, is this what the legacy of Naruto is going to be now? Like, just this whole thing about the new generation, that's not bad. I think it's just the fact of, like, we've seen it before. It's kind of the same thing, and not much is different. I think that's honestly it. And the fact that people have, I feel like, because they're kind of starting to realize that now, it's kind of like, like, what could you do? That's it.
So you do believe that it's passe in a way?
Yeah.
Yeah, in some way, I feel the same too. I feel like a lot of people has jumped the wagon of My Hero Academia, even though, like, again, I should not be comparing, but a lot of people are really doing it because maybe they're indirectly saying that that's really the case. May have been. I mean, a lot of people always make that video. Hell, the review with the with that incredible episode with well, actually, I should not say it, just in case a lot of people. That one episode in My Hero Academia season 2 is
Right.
really outstanding work. And there was this review that's saying, like, this is the episode that says this is not Naruto. This is My Hero Academia. I'm like, well, it never was. That's the thing. But that's the point. That's my point. My point is, a lot of people has that mindset. It's like, it's Naruto. Is this like another Naruto clone, or another Naruto in a sense of like how the story is trying to write, like the whole underdog story. Fine. But it's never Naruto, and that writing style is never Naruto original. It's just a storyline we have seen a lot before. It's just that Naruto has done it in a really good way when it first started off, of course. Now, you can argue that it came at the right time, but that's a different story. Point is, I feel like that My Hero Academia did in some ways stole thunder. Like, it did steal the thunder from Boruto, but maybe it didn't. Maybe it's just that Boruto is just like, just like probably like a past thing that a lot of people are just like, yeah, that was cool with Naruto, but with Boruto, it's like, we should move on. That's the way that's the impression I'm getting from the people, especially when like some of them are like, oh, for the first 10 episodes, we got like a lot of stuff going on with Zabuza, Naruto going and Sasuke working together, blah blah blah. They do that comparison. I understand that, but still, like I guess they're saying that if you're done with the franchise, if you're done with the thing, if you're done with the first part, you might as well stick with that and just call it a day and never return again, or return again for anniversary's sake. Like, oh yay, now it's the 20th anniversary, and now we could make a brand new movie based on Naruto again.
I also kind of feel like people are kind of burnt out because like there's just been like a lot of stuff that's come out after like the Naruto series ended. Like you have stuff like the Seven Deadly Sins. And what's the other series that's okay? Yeah, like Ancient Magus Bride, like that's the one we just mentioned too. That's getting an animated series and stuff like Attack on Titan too. Like I feel like Attack on Titan, out of anything, kind of changed the landscape, if you will, on anime in general, and it kind of pushed people to go and like, what, maybe the whole friendship thing, like yeah, like. No, I don't think Attack on Titan has any of that stuff, but as far as I can remember. But
well, they use friends, but they never really hammer in about it. So no, but I see what you're saying. It's not that it's nothing wrong with those kind of stories, with those shoving in. I mean, we've seen a lot of anime does that still. It's just, I guess you could say that. I guess it's like how some people sees like the comic book movies back then versus the today's era with the whole universe thing. Yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to say is like, okay, for some reason, a lot of people likes to think that, well, maybe not for some reason. It's actually a valid reason at one point. Like the old comic book movies, not all of them, but a good amount of them. Like they could be pretty good, but a lot of people likes to think that they're so campy and so, like, cheesy at times, but it's so good about it, man. You could just have fun with those movies. Now they're saying that the universe movies, today's movie, the Marvel, the DC, whatever, they're more smarter, and they like, I wouldn't say they're more serious in terms of writing, in terms of story, in terms of characters. They're more like out there. They're more down to earth. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, I was about to suggest that. Like I was about to
like you could
more down to earth.
Right, like you could take it more serious with these stories, with these comic book movies. You could take it more serious rather than being like campy. It's kind of like you came back from the Batman Adam West edition, and then you decided to go to the Dark Knight trilogy. It's like, oh yeah, it's a huge difference now. Now I'm taking it serious.
Or jumping from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man trilogy and then jumping to Spider-Man Homecoming. Like there's a huge.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, like, yeah, like you could have a favorite experiment like Amazing Spider-Man. you could be like, oh, it's too dark now, but whatever, to each of their own. I mean, I would agree that second one wasn't that good in my opinion. No, but again, my point is, maybe that's how a lot of people start to see now. Maybe it's hard to say, because you could argue time has changed, and that's true too. It's hard to argue, but that's how I kind of see it with Naruto and like other series today. Or you want to jot down to two again, My Hero Academia, because My Hero Academia is like borderline shonen with a lot of stuff, but it doesn't do the same thing that a lot of shonen talking about never giving up in the most very simplest form. Rather, it does it like more of a intellect level, which is good, and that's more compelling. That makes people more attracted to these characters. You don't have Deku being the Naruto style loudmouth guy who never shut up, or the dumb idiot guy. Instead, it's more like a really learning character that you can actually see his growth actually keep on growing. It's like, oh, that's believable, because I'm actually following him for this from the beginning, when he was always like, I'm so scared, I have no quirk, which makes sense because he has no quirk, so he would develop fear without having a quirk. And yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you want to be a hero, but after learning about after learning about being quirkless, of course, being the whole taunting and seeing everybody being better, the only thing he could do is study. That's it. But you see him evolve, you see him character growth, and it makes people more attracted to that character. So other ones is like, well, yeah, you're loudmouth and idiot, and it's cliche. So that's another thing, cliche. But yeah, that's the way I see it, at least.
That's honestly the best way I would put it.
Yeah. Again, it could be time has changed. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. We can only guess. We're not saying this is the valid reason. This is proof. We just feel like maybe Naruto franchise is just old.
Just kind of like reaching that point now.
Yeah, like maybe it might not be the case, but maybe the case maybe is that, Boruto would be awesome idea if you just waited longer. Instead, you did it right away.
Like if you guys that way, like maybe I don't know, like 10 years, like fine.
Yeah, like a lot of series that does a sequel come back for momentarily just to show you the epilogue or just to show you a little piece of the story to finish it off. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Yu-Gi-Oh! And then so soon the card captor is even coming back. And then you have for a limited time, you have that Strawberry 100 coming back for a sequel for a short while, just to show you some parts. And that's it. But like Naruto, it just went straight up for Boruto, like in a matter of a year, 2 years, 2 years.
I would even say 6 months.
Well, if you include the movie, sure, 6 months. If you include the movie, 6 months. But if you
include Gaiden, yeah. So,
but if you include the manga and the TV series, well, manga came first. Definitely 2 years. It was only 2 years. Dragon Ball Super took 19 years, if I recall correctly. That's enough for us to say, nostalgia. I actually like this because of the nostalgia trip. Yay, it's good. Yay.
Right.
But for Naruto, it's like, oh, it's nostalgia. Cool, I guess. You didn't let us sink in long enough.
No, you didn't.
No. But we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe, just maybe, the next 15 episode, maybe it'll actually get better. Maybe it'll actually be damn good. Maybe we actually change the opinion all of a sudden. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, that won't be the teller of that.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. Like, I don't really review. I do follow the series. So that's the best I can do. Luckychi, I think you reviewed them still?
I reviewed up until episode 9, which I think ironically was like the Hanabi stuff. And I think after that, I kind of just fell off. Yeah.
Well,
so at this point, I'm still just watching them.
Yeah, the point is we still follow the series. It's not like we don't no longer follow after 15 episodes because it sucked or whatever we think. It's not like that. It's just like we just don't talk about it. And maybe we would have talked about more of it if it's something interesting did happen. But so far, not yet. Not yet there. We're not there yet. It's still early, sure. And a lot of series tends to start slow. But if it does follow the source material, a lot of things is not going to be that compelling at this time. So time will tell. Maybe we got to give a year. Give it a year. And I do mean a year from the spring anime of 17 to 2018. That's what I mean, a year. So we'll see what happens in a year.
Right.
Yep.
I totally see that too.
Yeah. So that's it for the discussion. And yeah, not much to say. Just if you still follow the series, then keep on following. If you like the series, great. That's good for you. Nothing to argue there. Really not a bad thing. If you like it, if you don't like it, that's all on you. So yeah, that's the end of discussion. I'd like to thank Luckychi7 for joining me for this podcast, that return of the podcast that most likely won't return for another time for a long time.
It was a lot of fun, man. It was really a lot of fun coming back on here and like hearing like your thoughts and opinions on all of this, and especially just kind of getting my input on where things have been.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to find more timing to do the podcast. Actually, there is one more timing, but I won't say it until it will be posted on my channel. You're going to be, well, it's possible it might be controversial. Maybe. Just depends on the opinions. Maybe because I'm so used to the environment of the internet being such a hateful environment for that one particular series. But we'll talk about that another time. That's it. I'm Sparda 3G.
I'm Luckychi7.
If you like this and want more of this, subscribe to my channel and my world will be yours to stay. Until next time, take care.